this is the process of creating a sort of legacy or older existing tenancy and getting it caught up. So on our example property here, we can click in, click onto the Tenancies tab, and start to add a tenancy. And this is an older tenancy, so we're going to choose a much older start date, so a few years back. I'll just choose something random. We've got space to fill in notes, which we're going to leave blank in this case. I'm just going to put in a nice round number for the rent. You can ignore the options to adjust the rental day. We'll configure reminders for rent reviews, and we're just going to say there's no deposit for this tenancy at the moment, and save that tenancy. We now have our sort of empty tenancy here. We can click into that, and we're going to ignore the initial sort of checklist to get it set up, and instead jump straight through to the rent page. And here we can see we've got the original rent listed, and we are just going to add in one rent change that happened over the history of this tenancy. So we can say in 2025 there was a slightly late but rental increase there. Having saved that, we can see we've now got the two rents, and if we look back through the rental history, we can see that's reflected with the change in rent here. Now, rather than adding all of these rents individually as having been received, we can click on the three dots menu and choose bulk add historic payments. And we can say that this tenancy is actually completely up to date to today. So we're just going to choose today's date and click save. And then when we go back to the rental tab, we can see that the rent history is fully completed. If we click on show more just to see everything, we can see that all of the amounts due have got payments recorded against them, and the tenancy is fully up to date with nothing outstanding. And if this tenancy has actually now finished as well, so the last payment was on the 13th of January, so it wouldn't actually have finished yet, but we could perhaps delete that payment because it was one too many. We can delete that payment, and now when we go back to rent, we can see that's outstanding again, and the last payment was 13th of December. So this tenancy actually ended, so we can click to edit the tenancy, come into the end date, and we'll say it actually ended on the 13th of January. Scroll down and we can click save on that. We see there the tenancy has ended, and because there's a little bit extra on the end, because the 13th of January is actually the first day of the next rental period, we have got one extra day of rent that's been calculated as due. And if you're wondering how PaTMa calculates that, you can see the formula used here, and then the actual numbers that are used in this particular case here. So you can see the process it uses. Of course, there are different ways to potentially calculate a shorter rental period when there's only sort of a few days involved. And if PaTMA has used a method that you don't want, or perhaps you didn't want to charge this, so this one's 34.48, we can actually add a one-time rent adjustment, and we can say that actually on the 13th of January, hopefully I've remembered the number correctly, and we're going to give them the 35.48 discount. We can just save that. Now we go back to the rent. We can see that we've got an adjustment to this unpaid rent here, and the amount outstanding is now back to 0.